Welcome to Fitz Factor, the show where you learn how to master the stock market with Dan Fitzpatrick, the stock market mentor. Dan is a savvy trader. He's featured regularly on Fox Business, CNBC, Investors Business Daily, and SiriusXM Radio. In this podcast, Dan shares his insights on trading, life, and attaining long-term success in the market.
Scott and I were talking about my anxieties about the Mentor Trading Mastery course for next month.
Dan, this is going to be a fire hose of information.
Yeah.
And, for anyone who is signed up, I know we got a boatload of people that are coming. Yeah, I'm just so excited for all of you because, you are going to be learning some really important strategies to, get you in a place where you can look at a chart just like Dan Fitzpatrick does and be able to analyze it just like Dan Fitzpatrick does. And Dan, I think that is so valuable for people because it's not just about stock picks. It's about empowering people to become their own trader, hone in on their own strategy, take what you're teaching them and make it their own. And that is a lifetime gift that people have the ability to get here. So I'm so excited for anyone signed up for Mentor Trading Mastery.
Well, I got to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. My oldest son is trying like hell to get into Harvard. Why he's trying to do that, I have no idea. But so he's working on bumping up his LSAT score, and it's a really, really high bar. And he has a tutor that's helping him, a mentor, if you want to call it that. They've been working for a long time, and he's almost there. He's like 1 point away from getting in the right pile to where they'll look at him, because you have to have like a 170. I think if it's below 170, they won't even see you. It's like you get put into the long stack of people to send nice rejection letters to. And so he's at 169. His tutor said, look, this is what I think you need to do to get over the top. You need to start teaching this to other people. You need to be teaching other people how to take the LSAT. And that's when you'll really get it. Because if you can learn it, you can do it. But if you really, truly want to know it, you need to teach it. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And as I prepare for this thing, and I'm looking at it right now. I just printed it out. The workbook is 303 pages. I don't even have it done. And there's a lot of just a ton of charts in there. But one thing is I'm just kind of leafing through them right now. There's a lot of charts in there. But one thing that I'm doing differently than any course that I've done before, as far as chart reading, that I've seen anybody else do either, is you'll see a presentation on trading and show you all these pictures of a chart. And then they'll zoom in on a particular, like a cup and handle or something, like, oh, see, look at this chart. If you go back here, you'll see where this was a really nice cup. The volume was kind of low, and then it started to pick up. And then you'll see a little handle, a little kind of pullback. Volume was really light, and that means institutions weren't selling. And then bam, there was the blast off right there. And that's when you could have bought. And look what happened after that. And so you're seeing the entire chart. And it's so easy. It's so easy to trade in your mind a chart that you're seeing where the pattern was so clear, and then you see what happened afterwards. But so what I'm doing is, for the most part, I'm doing a little bit of both, but I'm taking away all the stuff that happened after the fact. I mean, we'll look at that in the next slide, but let's look at the pattern. Let's look at the past chart that gives you the setup, because that's what you need to be focused on. That's what you need to learn how to identify. That is, what's the setup for right now? And then at that point, that's when you can start trading it. But the thing that you have to remember is, just because you see a pattern that looks just like the other patterns you've seen that have led to big gains, you may not get a big gain. You may get a loss. Like not every stock does exactly what it says it's going to do if you're just looking at the chart and listening to what the chart says. So you have to understand that trading a pattern is still all about risk. It's all about managing your risk. There's no such thing as a perfect pattern. There's no such thing as a perfect trade. And there's no such thing as anybody who doesn't make mistakes. You're never going to trade perfectly. You're going to always make mistakes that are going to cost you money, either in terms of just losses or missed out profits. But what you want to be doing is you want to be trading your plan. And I won't even say you want to be trading your plan perfectly, because sometimes stuff happens. But that's what you want to be focusing on, is having a plan that works for you. And that's a little bit different for everybody, but some of the elements are universal. But you want to have a plan that's working for you. And you want to be trying as best as you can to trade that plan perfectly. Have a parameter like, okay, this is when I will add to a position. If the stock breaks through a pivot point, if this, if that, then this, then that. But you're always going to be making mistakes along the way. Your goal is to take your plan and then refine it. Make changes to it. If you see that there's a hole in your plan, or maybe it's a good plan, but it's just not your good plan because it just doesn't work for you psychologically or something, then just change it. Like one of the things that I'm learning about myself and my trading that I just kind of never really spotted this or had an epiphany about it this way. If I look at my account balance, that throws me off, because I'll start looking at, okay, well, if I make X amount of thousands of dollars more, then I'll have doubled my account this year, or then I'll be up 50%, something like that. And that takes my mind off of the thing that really matters. And that is, what's the chart doing? What's the market doing? What are my trades doing? Because the chart is going to tell you one thing, and your mind and your psychology and your fear, your love, your frustration, your anxiety, your greed, that stuff tells you something else, and it has nothing to do with the chart, nothing to do with that. And so what I've found is that if I glance at my account, I start thinking about protecting the number rather than protecting the position. And that is deadly. I'll just tell you, that's deadly for generating alpha, for generating outsized profits, for generating the kind of compounded returns that a great trader makes. When you start focusing on the thing that takes you away from, okay, what are the stocks doing? How is this going according to my plan? Like, what you shouldn't have is a trading plan that says, okay, here I am. When or if I can get my account balance up to X amount of dollars or X% gain, that's when I'm going to sell. Okay, that's a stupid plan. Sorry, but it is. It's a dumbass plan to be looking at the number or the percentage in your account and saying, that's when I'm going to sell.
If you're getting value from this podcast, click the subscribe button and sign up for Dan's free daily videos at stockmarketmentor.com.
Because your account doesn't care about the number. The market doesn't care about the number. The stock doesn't care about the number. Nobody cares about the number except you. Nobody cares. And so when I found myself focusing on that, my trading, I realize, has been way too conservative. Or sometimes if I'm trying to reach a certain level, then my trading gets too aggressive because, if I could just do this, I'll buy more call options or I'll do this and that. Then I'm trying to make more money on the upside as opposed to protecting my account for the downside. Neither one of those is constructive to good trading. What you want to be doing is focusing on your trades, and you should certainly be focusing on what percentage of your account is a given position. And I've had a percentage of my account, like in one position, of like 180%. In other words, I've been 80% on leverage. Other times I've had a percentage, like one position is taken, 5% of my account. Okay, well, that's just a starter position. I don't expect to make any money on that. Like 5%, what's that going to do? It's not going to move the needle, but it's a place to start. The point is, what you want to be focusing on is each individual position, maximizing the gain that you can get from that position without incurring too much risk. You always start with risk first and then move to get gains from there. But of everything that I've just said, nothing requires knowing your account gain or loss for the year. Nothing, it's just simply not required. You do want to, every so often, and maybe this is at the end of the day, maybe it's at the end of the week or the month or whatever, but every so often you got to take stock of what your account balance is, because it will change your tranche size on taking a position. Like, let's say you got $1 million in your account and your typical starting position is, say, 10% of that account, $100,000. Okay, that's fine. Maybe it's just 5%, 50,000, but let's say it's $100,000, 10%. Okay, great. So then you're doing really well. A couple months later, your account balance is at $130,000 or 1.3 million or 1.5 million. Well, if you're still taking an initial position of quote 10% based on $1 million, well, you're way below where your rule says you should be, which is my initial position is 10% or 5% of my trading account balance. So every so often, you need to kind of ratchet up your position sizes, not because you're taking on more risk, but because your account balance is greater. And so in order to continue to compound that new account balance, you need to be starting with a bigger position dollar-wise, but not percentage-wise. You guys see what I'm talking about? And you can flip me a couple emojis too if this is making sense to you. But man, it's really, really important that you get this, because if you don't, or I should say until you do, you will always struggle to grow your equity curve from the lower left to the upper right of the chart. I know, because I've been there. And you can see, at least on Thinkorswim, I think on any platform, you can see like what your profit is for today. Okay, that's fine. And then there's times like today, I'm absolutely freaking tonning it, because I went into the weekend with a boatload of call options on MicroStrategy and a crap ton of IBIT, and a ton of call options on AMD as well. So Dan's a pretty happy boy today. But I'm looking at what I'm making today. In a prior life, I would start looking to lighten up, like, oh my gosh, how much money am I making today? Oh, I don't want to let it slip, so I'll sell this or that. And now I don't do that. I'm going like, oh my gosh, I'm doing really well today. Okay, stop. Now, let me look at the charts and see what's going on with those stocks. Because maybe if it's doing really well, if a stock's doing really well, maybe I need to be adding to that position, not shutting it down or not taking some off the table. What's really the most important is what you actually do, not what you know. You got to be able to do it. And so as I've gone through this material that I'm going to be teaching next month, I've learned so much. I've kind of retaught myself things that I've known and forgotten, but then also little nuances. Like I study a lot of Bill O'Neill stuff. The guy was, I mean, he's changed the way a lot of people trade. But the point is, I've read his book, How to Make Money in Stocks, probably a dozen times, and some of the others too. Every time I read that book, I get something new out of it. Same thing with Mark Minervini's stuff, which is largely based on Bill O'Neill's stuff. There's an old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. Now, AI is new, but the point is a lot, and I've mentioned this several times recently, that few of the things that I will say or teach you are unique to me. Some are, but most are just derivatives from what I've learned through people that I consider to be my mentors. Bill O'Neill would be one. Dave Ryan would be one. Mark Minervini, Jesse Livermore, all the greats. You don't have to have their phone number. You just have to learn what they're teaching you. And I know some of you, hopefully all of you, but some of you look at me as a mentor. Well, most of you are never going to know me. Some of you will, but that doesn't mean that I can't be your mentor, because you just have to be looking at the knowledge that you're getting from what I'm sharing. That's all you need. Like that's what a good mentorship is all about, is the person who's learning gets information from the mentor, and the mentor helps them modify, adjust, improve, fix, all of that stuff, asks questions, gives you food for thought, kind of like I'm doing now. I'm not just saying this stuff for my own benefit. I know all this stuff. Otherwise, it wouldn't be coming out of my mouth. So the point is that anybody or any source that gives you food for thought, you can look at that as a viable learning source, and you need to grab onto that stuff and hang on like a frickin' hungry bulldog. And you will find that you will get so much more out of the same resource by just listening to it or reading it or doing it for as long as you possibly can. But you're never going to learn everything about trading. You're never going to be a perfect trader. When I use my golf analogy, the best golfers in the world are eons away from hitting a perfect, going on a perfect game of 18. It's always misses. They only get 18 of their strokes correct where it actually goes into the hole. Everything else is about risk. So these are just some of the things that I think about pretty much every day. I'm just throwing that out in the ether, and we'll see what, we'll see what you do with it. We'll put it that way.
Thanks for listening to Fitz Factor with Dan Fitzpatrick. If you like this, then you'll love Dan's premium service at stockmarketmentor.com, where you can learn how to trade stocks, options, and cryptocurrencies. Click the link below and get access to real-time trading alerts, a community of traders just like you, and live training sessions each week. Get the trading edge that you need at stockmarketmentor.com.